Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another video. In this video, I am going to talk about Solo Shuffle now that it is on the live servers in the Dragonflight pre-patch. A lot of you guys have had the opportunity to play it. Check it out yourselves. And, I've spent a little bit more time in it on my mage, on my Windwalker monk. And for the most part, it's actually a lot of fun. Obviously, there's a ton of positives to the Solo Shuffle system. The fact that you can kind of just log on and play, you don't have to rely on teammates. It gives you a lot of variety in your play as well. You get to try lots of different compositions, play with lots of different players, and overall it's been a really, really solid experience, I would say. There's only one thing that really worries me about it, and my biggest worry for Solo Shuffle, and it's something that I don't know if you guys can relate with, but it's that dreaded feeling of when your Q pops and it shows you're playing with two tanks. Now, this is something that's obviously going to vary. Like, your opinion on this is going to vary depending on who you are, obviously. I mean, if you're a tank player, maybe you don't mind it. If you're a tank player, maybe you do mind it. But it's the fact that when you don't have a healer in the game, it just feels really, really strange to me. So normally what happens most of the time is you queue up, you get two healers, you get 4 DPS, you have a really fun game with one healer, 2 DPS. That's like kind of the magic formula. The problem is when instead of healers, you get tanks and the game becomes really, really kind of strange, where every game feels like a massive rushdown. The tanks are normally kind of immune to death. So you just have these two targets. You have one target on each team that's kind of just immune to death. And depending on what tank it is, they can keep their team alive. Obviously, prop paladins are more healer-esque. So they have a lot more like kind of immunities and defensives and heals that they can toss onto the team. So it doesn't feel quite as bad. But just overall, the experience of playing with a tank versus playing with a healer, to me, is a little bit strange. And I honestly don't enjoy it very much. So whenever I do get, the tanks popping up, I feel like I don't even want to really take it seriously. I don't enjoy it that much. When I've talked about this on my stream, it's kind of been a mixed bag. For the most part, I feel like people kind of agree with me in the sentiment of it's more fun to play 3v3 arena when you have a healer on your team. There's other people that say if you want to play like that strict healer DPS composition, then you could just queue rated 3s, right? And you can choose whatever composition you want. Solo Shuffle is supposed to be a little bit more random, a little bit more exciting in that regard. And, I don't know if it is that much more exciting. It kind of just feels like an all-out Zerg fest, but I'm not sure. Maybe once ratings kind of sort themselves out and maybe you get used to it, it could feel okay. I also thought about kind of like potential solutions that they could come up with for this. Like, what do you do? Because obviously you can't, a lot of people say like, oh, just don't allow tanks to play, but I don't think that's a solution that's ever really going to happen, just because I think psychologically it feels pretty bad if Blizzard just disables like a bunch of specs. How many specs is that? Like 4 or 5 specs from actually queuing arena and basically just admitting that they're giving up on those specs. So I don't think that that's going to happen. I think they have every intention of allowing tanks to continue to PvP and play Solo Shuffle. So what do you do? They could leave it how it is. That's an option. Maybe it's okay for the tank games to feel a little bit more wild card. I personally don't like it, but maybe some other players do. I've heard the solution as well, where you could have tanks actually queue with healers. So instead of the game being healer DPS on each team, or tank DPS, you could actually have a way where it would be healer tank DPS. So a game would consist of 2 tanks, 2 healers, 2 DPS. The only problem with that one is you would have 2 rounds, right? If you're switching up the teams and you have 6 rounds, 2 of those rounds would be healer, 2 tanks. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like, I kind of feel like if I was playing my mage and I fought into like 2 tanks, like, it was like a Mistweaver monk, Guardian Druid, Protection Paladin, I don't know how I would win that one. It would feel pretty rough. So maybe that's the experience they're trying to avoid, and maybe one of the reasons why they don't want to have tanks and healers queue together. But it honestly might be a better solution. The thing is, dampening ramps up really, really quick in Solo Shuffle. So potentially, tanks aren't going to be as problematic as they are in 3v3 when queuing with a healer. So even though, tank and healer is traditionally very tanky, it might be a better solution to just have a healer on both teams in every single game of Solo Shuffle. The other thing that I kind of thought of is maybe they actually want tanks and healers to fit the same role just so queues are faster, right? It seems like one of the problems with solo shuffle, well, not a problem, but one of the things that happens with solo shuffle is there's a lot more DPS than healers that want to play. So DPS end up sitting longer queues and healers get fast queues. Now, a potential solution to that is exactly what they've done, right? You have tanks fill the same role as healers, and then all of a sudden DPS can just get into games faster. And maybe that's better. Is it better to just have fast games, or is it better to have high quality games? I mean, I'm sure that's up to kind of the individual and what they think. But yeah, my thoughts on it are I don't know what the solution is, and I'm happy to admit that. I've thought about it a lot. I've talked to a lot of people. I don't know what the best solution is. It seems like there's pros and cons to everything. But what I do know is every single time I get into a game where it's tank 2 DPS, like my healer is a tank, the game doesn't feel that good. It feels really zergy. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of like skill or finesse involved in the match, and I overall just don't really have a good experience. Whereas when I have a healer on my team, for the most part, I have a really good experience. So I'm actually curious what you guys think. Do you think this is a problem that needs to be addressed? Have you guys had fun queuing with tanks? Do you think that healers and tanks should be able to play together? Like, what are your overall thoughts on this topic? Because I think it is something that's worth discussing, and it's definitely something we should give feedback on once we kind of figure out. Or, you know, it's sometimes I think it's not up to me to come up with a solution, but it is okay to identify a problem, right? If there's a problem in the game and it makes you feel some kind of way, it's not your job to come up with a solution, but it is good to give feedback about it not feeling too good. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. This is just playing with tanks in solo shuffle. Doesn't feel that good, but what do you do about it? I really don't know, but I thought it would be an interesting kind of topic to discuss. So let me know, leave a comment. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you guys hit the follow button if you guys want to stay up to date on all things World of Warcraft and my channel. All right, thank you everybody. Have a good day.